Hello again, this is SurroSec, and in today's video I'm going to be discussing what makes a rifle in California featured or featureless. I'm going to start off with common AR-15s, and then in the second half of the video I'll go over AKs because there is a pretty big difference when it comes to featureless and featured for AKs. So starting from the rear of the rifle and working my way forward, I'm going to explain what you can legally have and what you cannot legally have in the state of California, and if you need to make some type of modifications to the rifle to make it legal, what those modifications would be. So let's start out with featureless first. So this is a featureless rifle. This is my Aero Precision M4E1. There'll be a full breakdown on this in a week or two. And then this is a featured rifle. Now right away you're probably going to notice the pistol grip. So if you see a standard pistol grip on an AR-15, instantly assume it's probably a full feature rifle. So I'm going to set this one aside for a second, and then we'll look at the featureless rifle because those are much more common in the state of California. Looking at the stock first. This is an adjustable stock. In the state of California, having an adjustable stock on an AR would make it an assault weapon. So what you have to do if you want an adjustable stock is pin the stock. And what that means is basically make it so the stock can no longer be adjusted. So on this one, this is a Bravo company, a soft mod Mark Mod 0 stock. And what I did, I basically had to change some of the insides, but notice when I squeeze this lever down, it's not going anywhere. It's totally fixed in place with a pin. Now, you can have fixed stocks as long as you make them so they're no longer adjustable. Those count as fixed stocks. Another super more common option is Magpul's MOE carbine fixed stock. This will be good to go because obviously there's no possible way to adjust it, and it just slides on the buffer tube like most other stocks. So it's pretty easy to get a stock that is adjustable, pin it, or just get a fixed stock. Your classic M16A2 stocks, those are also fixed. So stock options, there's a lot of ways to modify it to make it featureless. So those are the stocks. Now moving forward from the stock, the next feature that California classifies on rifles as being assault weapons is the pistol grip. Now here is a Sparrow Dynamics pistol grip. Now what the law says is the web of your thumb, so this webbing right here, the webbing of your thumb has to be above the highest point on the trigger. So basically the trigger hole, if you drew a straight line across, the webbing of your thumb has to always be above the trigger. So what's nice about the Sparrow Dynamics grip, as you can see, the webbing of my thumb, even if I hold this grip, the webbing of my thumb is still above that line. There's no possible way for the webbing of my thumb to go below the top portion of the trigger. Now I like this grip because it's one of the few featureless grips that allows you to actually get your thumb around the grip. So I can have my fingers here, my thumb around the grip. If I flip it over, notice my thumb is here. So you kind of hold the rifle as if it was more of like a hunting stock. So with that, I can actually have full control of the rifle, even with the featureless grip, which is kind of rare in featureless grips. Now, this one is an aftermarket part. I really doubt you'll be able to find a rifle in California that comes with the Sparrow grip installed. So, yeah, most of the more common feature grips in California are going to be fin grips. So I have an example of a fin grip here. This is a Strike Industries fin grip. Now, if this was installed like so, as you can see on the rifle, there's no possible way for you to get your thumb around. It may seem like there's a hole up here, like this little gap here, but there's no way to actually get your thumb around when it's installed. It's just really not possible. So fin grips are super cheap, super common. I think this fin grip, if you want to buy it, it's like $10. It's very cheap. Now, how you hold this one's a lot different than this one. Notice before I said, with the Sparrow grip, I can still get my thumb around and hold it and have full control of the rifle, holding it with one hand. With fin grips, that is actually not really possible. Your thumb has to be on this side of the grip. So when you hold it, you're going to be holding it like this, when your thumb is kind of just hanging out here. There's a few fin grips that will have a thumb rest, where you can rest your thumb on top, and I actually have that installed on my AK, which I'll show later. So fin grips, another option, but as far as featureless grips go in California, I would say standard fin grips like this without a thumb rest are definitely the cheapest and least ergonomic option available for us. So avoid a fin grip if you can, but to stay legal, find a grip, but make sure you get a grip where the webbing of your finger is above that trigger line. That's really important. If some cop pulls you over, you need to be able to show, well, you know, the law says my webbing of my thumb has to be above that line. So fin grip, Sparrow Dynamics grip, a little bit of a difference. Now the next feature that California thinks is, if you want to have a featureless rifle, is the magazines. So I don't have any magazines since this is a brand new rifle. I just finished building and putting together. I don't have any magazines, so I'm going to use an AK mag to show the size kind of. So this is a 10 round AK mag. Now if you have a featureless rifle, you're allowed to use standard capacity magazines. So 30 round, 40 round, 100 rounds. However, you are only allowed to use magazines that are larger than 10 rounds if you acquire those magazines during Freedom Week. Now, what is Freedom Week? Go ahead and look that up on Google. California Magazine Freedom Week. Basically, there's a small window of time where you were legally able to purchase magazines that had a capacity above 10 rounds. However, nowadays, if you're watching this video, in California, it is still illegal to import or purchase new magazines that are above 10 round capacity. So you can use 10 round capacity, you can use 30 rounds if you legally attain them during the proper time. So that's a big difference between features and featureless. Featureless rifles can use larger magazine. Feature rifles, it doesn't matter even if you legally own a large magazine over 10 rounds. In featured rifles, you are not legally allowed to put anything more than 10 rounds in those, but I'll go over that in a second. Okay, moving on down the barrel, the next thing that California thinks on rifles is an assault feature. To make an assault weapon is a vertical foregrip forward of the action of the rifle. So this is the action here where the bolt happens. Now I have a hand stop. Even though it has a little vertical knob on it, this is still just a hand stop. Now how I use this, I can put all four of my fingers in between it and use it to kind of, when I'm holding the rifle, to pull it into my shoulder. Or what I use, which is a little more comfortable, I put my forward finger up here and my 3 rear ones back, and I'm able to pull the rifle really into my shoulder and have a really positive grip on the weapon, which helps a lot. So vertical foregrips. Now what classifies as a vertical foregrip? Basically, if the advertising on the item itself, anywhere in the documentation of the product, if it says vertical foregrip, it's classified as a vertical foregrip. Anything that's not explicitly a hand stop, you can have angled hand stops. I know a Magpul makes an angled hand stop that looks like a small little triangle. Those are good to go. Hand stops are good to go. A little tiny nub is good to go. Anything that is going to protrude down and where you can have a pistol-like hold on it, is what the law says. That's going to make it an assault weapon. Okay, so moving on forward. The next feature that California classifies your weapon as an assault weapon is the front of the gun. Now, there's another thing you got to be really careful here with your muzzle device. So this is a muzzle brake, and this specific one is 2 ports, so it has 2 openings, and it has some vents on the top. Now, muzzle brakes can get into kind of gray territory as far as assault weapon bans go, because again, you have to look at the classification and the actual write-up on the manufacturer's site. If on the manufacturer's site, anywhere in the documentation about the muzzle device, if it says flash suppression, flash reducing, flash hiding, any type of flash reducing or suppressing ability on the device, is classified as a flash hider in the state of California. So before you go and buy any muzzle device, look at all the tags, look at the documentation from the manufacturer, and really make sure that the muzzle device you want to purchase has no flash suppression capabilities. The this is a muzzle brake. Like I said, usually muzzle brakes, they're going to make the flash significantly larger and brighter and way more pronounced. But the big thing to look for is on the front of the gun. If there's any type of like prongs on the front of the muzzle, this has some little notches, but there's no prongs and the opening is very small. You can be pretty much safe to say that that is a muzzle brake and not a flash hider. Other legal devices, you can just have bare barrel with nothing on the muzzle. That's fine. Muzzle brakes are usually okay, and linear compensators. Those are usually okay. Again, make sure you look at the documentation on the manufacturer website to make sure there's no flash hiding capabilities. So those are the key points to having a featureless rifle. I'll go over them real quick again. Fixed stock, pistol grip that does not allow your webbing of your thumb to go below this line, so any fin grip or angled grip like this works. You can have standard capacity magazines if you legally own them during Freedom Week. No vertical foregrip, forward of the action of the rifle, and no flash hiding or flash suppressing muzzle device. This is a featureless rifle. Now, I would typically run this rifle just like this, even if I lived in a freedom loving state. The only thing I would ever change on this is get a normal pistol grip. So featureless is a fantastic option if you want to own a rifle in the state of California. Now, let's look at the other rifle to look at a featured rifle, and you can see the differences. Okay, this is a Ruger 5.56, and it came with full features from the local gun shop from a friend of mine who owns this rifle. Now, as I said before, notice this is a pistol grip, right? The stock is adjustable, and it has a flash hider on the front. So if you want to have those assault weapon features on your rifle, there's something very specific you have to have, and that goes to the magazine release. To have these features on a featured rifle, you cannot have a functioning magazine release. And you say, oh, how the heck do I reload the weapon? Now, there's lots of different aftermarket options on there. The one that this one has specifically is a Juggernaut Tactical pin set, and you can see the raised pin here on the rear takedown pin. To reload this weapon, instead of just pushing the magazine release, you have to push this, which separates the receiver. Notice there's a small gap in the receiver, you can see it. And then the magazine release functions. And then after you put a new magazine in, you click it, lock the upper and lower receiver back together, and then you're able to fire again. So, if you want an adjustable stock, or if you want a standard pistol grip, notice the webbing of my finger can easily go well below the trigger. If you want a standard pistol grip. If you want a standard flash hider, this is an A2 birdcage style flash hider, the absolute most common muzzle devices on AR-15s in the entire world. These will come standard actually on most guns, so you're gonna have to remove this for featureless. If you want any of these features, and again, you can also have a vertical foregrip on this rifle because it's magazine locked. If you want those features, you have to have a way to lock the magazine and make it so in order to reload the weapon, the upper and lower receiver have to be separated. That's the big key point. If you want even a single feature, a single one of these features, you have to have a way to break open the upper and lower receiver in order to reload. So personally, I do not like to have to reload like that. And there's some other issues that come about when you get malfunctions in the chamber. If you get double feeds, if you get failure to ejects, a lot of times you're gonna have to completely disassemble the rifle, pop out all the pins and remove the bolt carrier group, just totally disassemble the rifle to get rid of a common malfunction in the gun. So that's a huge issue in full featured guns that make me go featureless. Also, even if you legally own magazines that have a capacity of over 10 rounds, in a featured rifle, you are never allowed to put a magazine into this gun that has more than 10 rounds. If you do that, you will be, technically a felon in the state of California. So don't do that. So those are the two big things to look out for when you're going to purchase a rifle, or if you want to make some modifications to your rifle, change things around. Really pay attention. Make sure you're not, inadvertently breaking the law, and you don't want to be a surprise felon overnight because you put a different stock on your rifle. So that's it for AR-15s. Now I'm going to move on to AK style rifles and show the differences between features and featureless for those. So this is my lovely Zastava ZPAP M70. As you've seen in some of my other videos, this is my pride and joy, my rifle. Now, starting from the rear and working yourself forward on AKs, what makes those featureless and featured? Now, you see the fin grip, and what that means is this is most likely a featureless rifle. If you see a fin grip, chances are it's featureless unless someone, accidentally broke the law and probably doesn't know about it. So, going from the back and working our way forward. Fixed stock. If you have an AK with a wooden stock, a full wooden stock, a full polymer stock, and it's fixed, it's not able to be, a folding stock or a extending stock, you're good to go. Luckily with most AKs, they're going to come with a fixed stock. So just be careful. If you want to go featureless, do not put a folding stock or an adjustable stock on your AK. Now, fin grip. Just like AR-15s, you are not allowed to have a normal pistol grip. The same law applies. The webbing of your thumb is not allowed to be below the highest exposed portion of the trigger. So with the fin grip, I can't get my thumb in there, right? So I have to hold it like this with my thumb on the right side of the rifle. Now I have a little thumb shelf here, which is fantastic, I think. So I can hold the rifle like this and rest my thumb on that little shelf. It gives me much more positive control of the rifle and firing, and I can almost hold it with one hand. But a lot of that comes down to the rifle just being heavy. So if you're going to go with the fin grip, I would recommend getting a thumb shelf. The Sparrow Dynamics grip, I did show you can get your thumb around it. Unfortunately for AKs, you can't really do that because the receiver goes pretty well past the pistol grip. So those type of grips are really, they just don't exist. So for AKs, you're almost always going to have a fin grip if you want to go featureless. Now as far as magazines go, for AKs, the same rule applies. You can only use 10-round magazines in the state of California unless you purchased them during Freedom Week and you own them previously. Featured AKs, if you want to have a normal pistol grip, basically if you want to remove the fin and have a feature AK, you have to have a magazine that locks into the gun, that cannot be reloaded by simply pushing this tab forward and pulling the magazine out. Now with AKs, the receiver doesn't really break apart like an AR-15. There's no way to simply open up the upper and lower receiver because there is no lower receiver. You can take the dust cover off and you can remove the bolt, but that would make reloading absolutely a nightmare. So pretty much the only product that exists to make an AK style rifle a featured rifle is those magazines that load from the magazine. It's like an AK comp mag, I believe they're called. Basically you put them in and then you're not able to reload them or remove the magazine with this lever. You have to load from the bottom of the magazine and put the bullets in and then kind of crank it up. I think it looks stupid. I think it's a terrible option. So I go featureless on AKs. Now, moving forward on AKs. Very similar to the AR-15, you are not allowed to have a vertical foregrip. Luckily for us AK owners, that's extremely rare on AKs. AKs pretty much come standard with just flat handguards with no way to even mount. With wood handguards in AK, you cannot even mount a vertical foregrip here. There is one notable option for AKs. You'll see a lot of times on Romanian style AKs, they'll have the wooden grip here. It's called the wooden dong. You cannot have a dong in California. Big surprise, California doesn't like big wood dongs. They want us to be neutered and flat. So, no vertical foregrips on featureless rifles or featureless AKs. Moving forward to the muzzle device. Again, I have a muzzle brake. This one is 3 ports, so there's 3 openings. Now, on the documentation for this muzzle brake, it had nowhere listing on the documentation that it had any flash suppression, flash hiding capabilities. So it's able to be purchased because it has no flash suppression capabilities. Again, on the front there's some notches, but there's no like prongs really. It's kind of flat. But the biggest thing is looking at the documentation. So that makes a featureless AK style rifle in the state of California. Now, if I left the state of California, honestly, the only thing I would change about this is, of course, removing the little fin. So for AKs, it's not too bad, you know, putting a little fin on. I get it. It still is terrible, but it's a lot easier to make AKs featureless compared to AR-15s, simply on the merit that AR-15s have much more ways to mount and have all kinds of the cool attachments that you'd have that are not really standard on AK style rifles. So, hope that helped you out. Put the rifles back on the table for one final show. So, featureless AK, fin grip. Full featured AR-15, adjustable stock, pistol grip, flash hider. Featureless AR-15, fixed stock, grip that does not allow my thumb to go below. You know, I have not a vertical foregrip here, a hand stop, and a muzzle brake. So I really hope that helped clear things up. Hopefully you are not going to be surprise felons by making some small modification onto your rifle. And most importantly, hopefully we can change these laws in California so we can remove arbitrary things that don't actually affect the lethality of the rifle. So thanks for watching. Hopefully stay tuned next week or so you can see a full breakdown of my fancy new AR-15. And I'll catch you guys later in the next video. Have a good one.